My loves, welcome. Welcome back to the forbidden glass of wine. Tonight, we do not just sip. We remember. We feel. We honor. This glass before me, it is not simply wine. It is a mirror of history, a vessel of memory, a reflection of every heartbeat that came before ours. Each drop carries a story of blood spilled, of love endured, of survival whispered through generations. Here in this sacred space, we do not run from our past. We return to it. To the cane fields, to the mountains, to the rivers that once carried both pain and prayer. We return to the voices of our ancestors in St. Lucia, those who were chained, those who fought, those who endured so that we might rise. Their story is our story, their pain, our inheritance, their courage, our legacy. And their freedom, my loves, is our duty to protect. So lift your glass with me, not to forget, but to remember who we are, where we came from, and what we must never become again. This is their story. This is our reminder. This is the forbidden glass of wine. The whisper of her name. My loves. Not all queens wear crowns. Some carry machetes in the forest. Some wear the smoke of battle as their perfume. Some rule not from thrones, but from the shadows of the mountains. In the heart of St. Lucia, when the moon was the only witness, there walked such a queen, a woman whose name was nearly swallowed by the silence of history. Her name was Flore Bois Gaillard, once enslaved. She broke her chains not only with strength, but with vision. She fled the plantation, her feet cutting through thorn and cane, her spirit chasing something greater than survival. Freedom. When the brigand wars ignited, when men rose from cane fields with fire in their hands and courage in their hearts, Flore rose among them, not behind them. She stood beside warriors, commanding through instinct and through pain turned into power. They called her many names: fugitive, outlaw, rebel. They hunted her through the hills, through the smoke of burning plantations, through nights so dark, even the moon seemed to hide its light. But she would not yield, because Flore was no myth whispered to frighten soldiers. She was flesh, blood, and fury shaped by injustice. She was a woman who had known the taste of the whip and still found the strength to lead. History, my loves, it has a way of forgetting women like her. Men's names fill the pages, but women's stories breathe between the lines. Quiet, patient, waiting to be heard. Tonight, we give breath back to her name. Flore Bois Gaillard, the rebel, the queen, the fire that would not die. They hunted her like an animal. They called her a criminal. But history remembers her as a lioness. My loves, this glass tonight, it carries her fire, her defiance, her courage that dared to live free in a time designed to break her. This one is for Flore. The rebel queen. In the late 1700s, my loves, St. Lucia was no stranger to war. The island changed hands 14 times, passed between France and Britain as if it were a gemstone in a king's pocket, a treasure fought over by empires that never tilled her soil or bled in her heat. But in the shadows of their empires, another war was being born. A war not for crowns, nor gold, but for breath, for freedom. The enslaved across the plantations had begun to taste hope. Far away in France, a revolution shouted liberty, equality, fraternity. And those words rode the trade winds across the Atlantic, whispering through cane fields and boiling houses, settling into the hearts of men and women who had never known liberty's touch. They began to believe that the world could change, that God himself might one day hear their cry. But hope is dangerous, my loves, because hope cannot be chained. When the British returned to reclaim the island, they came not with mercy, but with muskets. They sought to restore the old order, the whips, the fear, the silence. Yet the people who had tasted the idea of freedom could no longer pretend to be slaves. So they fled, from Soufrière to Dennery, from Micoude to the dense heart of Bar de l'Île. Thousands escaped into the forests and mountains, the green cathedrals of resistance. There they became what the British would soon call brigands. To the empire, they were rebels. To their brothers and sisters, they were deliverers, and among them, walking barefoot through mud and moonlight, was a woman named Flore Bois Gaillard. Born enslaved, Flore had known every cruelty that the cane fields could teach. She had felt the sting of the whip, heard the sound of a child taken from its mother, watched men collapse under a sun that showed no pity. Yet, somewhere within that suffering, something stronger was forged, a spirit that would not bow. When rebellion called, Flore answered. She ran to the hills with nothing but her will and her faith. There the forest became the fortress, the rivers her escape routes, the mountain mists her allies. Under the canopy, Flore became more than a fugitive. She became a leader. She drew men and women to her camp. Runaways, fishermen, mothers with infants on their hips, all seeking one thing, the right to call their own souls free. Her camp was not just a refuge, it was a movement. They farmed by moonlight, forged weapons from cutlasses and sugar tools, shared food, faith, and stories of the life they would one day live in peace. The British feared her more than any regiment. They called her dangerous. They put a price on her head, 30 pieces of silver for her capture, dead or alive. But they could never find her. They sent soldiers to burn villages, to cut trails through the forest, to smoke her out with fire and fury. But each time, she vanished into the mist. Each time she struck back from another hill. They could not fight what they could not see. Because Flore did not fight as an army. She fought as the land itself. Swift, hidden, untamed. Her people said she moved like the wind. You felt her presence before you saw her. And when you saw her, it was already too late. To the British, she was chaos. To her people, she was freedom breathing. Her rebellion was not written on parchment or declared by nobles. It was carved in the soil of St. Lucia, in the roots of every tree that sheltered her, in the blood of those who refused to kneel again. And though the history books wrote little about her, her story refused to die. It lived in the mouths of grandmothers, in the songs of drummers, in the wind that sweeps through Choiseul and Babonneau. Her name became a whisper carried through generations. A secret flame passed from one heart to another, so that one day someone would speak it aloud again. That day, my loves, is tonight. Personal vignette. Floristan curls around figures crouched low. The camera glides past weary faces. Men and women with machetes, scars, unquiet fire in their eyes. The night breathes heavy. Picture her, my loves. Night in the forest. The rain has just passed, leaving the earth wet and breathing. The smell of smoke and mud fills the air. A few dozen men and women sit in a wide circle beneath the trees, their faces carved by exhaustion, their eyes by defiance. The flame in the center crackles, its light painting ghosts across their faces. Among them stands Flore, barefoot, her feet calloused from months of flight. Her hair, long and damp, clings to her neck. A machete rests against her leg, its blade catching the orange flicker of the fire. She scans their faces, these men, these women, these souls who have followed her through hunger and fear. Some are wounded, some have lost children, some clutch the hands of lovers they know they may never see again. Yet in this circle, in this shadowed cathedral of trees, there is no despair, only will, only faith. Flore lifts her chin and speaks, her voice calm but fierce, as though she is channeling something ancient, something divine. They can burn the forest, she says. They can call us brigands, but they will never break our spirit. Her tone trembles not with fear, but with the weight of conviction. Her eyes flash, catching the light of the fire like a mirror to her soul. Better to die in these mountains free, she says, than to live one more day in chains. Her people shift. Men nod silently, gripping their blades tighter. Women reach for each other's hands. A child, half asleep in her mother's arms, stirs, as if even the young can feel the power of her words. Flore kneels briefly beside the fire, drawing her finger for the ashes. The smoke rises in soft spirals, and she whispers a prayer in Creole, a plea for protection, a promise to the ancestors who fought before her. Then she stands. Tomorrow, she says, we fight again. Her hand lifts, machete gleaming in the faint moonlight that pierces the canopy. No cheers, no shouts, only the unified sound of breath, as her people rise one by one behind her. Together, they move through the trees like smoke, silent, unseen, unstoppable. Each swing of their blade will not be hatred, but hope. Each strike will not be vengeance, in the hymn of freedom. Each drop of sweat, a baptism in the struggle for a life beyond bondage. My loves, imagine her there, a woman made of flesh and courage, standing against an empire. No army, no flag, just faith. This was Flore Bois Gaillard, the rebel woman, the mother of resistance, the lioness of the forest. My loves, if tonight's glass has touched your spirit, then don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe so the stories of our ancestors continue to pow one glass at a time. Join me, Lady Divine, for the next sip of truth, healing, and history inside the forbidden glass of wine. I love you all.